Hi, this is Jeff Railsback with Paso's Education Alliance. I'm here with Greg Goodman, who is one of our 12 candidates for the Paso's Joint Unified School District Board of Directors. Mr. Goodman, thank you for joining us today. And we'll go ahead and start and just ask you to introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself, and why are you running for school board?
Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you about this today. I have had a long tenure in education, both in public and private education. I was inspired to become an educator really based upon a lot of bad experiences that I had growing up as a student. I was not the best student, and school was really a difficult experience for me. And it wasn't until I grew up and had an opportunity to really reflect on what happened to me that I realized that I was a victim of some bad circumstances, some of which was in my family that caused me to have an attitude as a student, and the other was the educational system that I was having to deal with, which was very boring and pedantic. So I decided that I wanted to make a change in that. I wanted to do things differently, and I went to a school called Outward Bound in Colorado and learned a lot about experiential learning, experiential education, and decided to become a counselor and to work with disaffected youth. And I spent many years, over 25 years in New Hampshire, where I grew up, like Jim Cogan, working with disaffected youth as a counselor in elementary and middle schools, and then as an outdoor educator in an alternative program at Winnicott High School in Hampton, New Hampshire. I left New Hampshire and came to California with my wife, and she took a job at Fresno State teaching in the English department, and I found a job working as a school psychologist in Clovis. I really enjoyed my 15-year tenure there, and enjoyed being a school psychologist more than any other job that I had ever had. I really liked being able to use science and data and assessment to validate my feelings about kids and their cognitive and affective states. I think I really helped a lot of kids by helping them get into special education, which was a big help for kids that had learning disabilities and other cognitive and affective issues. At the same time, I was also a little bit restless having done that for 15 years. And so I went on to get my doctorate at UC Davis, and the doctorate's in educational leadership. I really enjoyed working at Davis, and I got to meet a lot of the distinguished faculty at UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, as well as UC Davis, and forged some great alliances there, and ended up publishing 50 books in education and outdoor education. They cover a wide range, but mostly they're in educational psychology, and my main area of research and interest is in how children learn. I published widely with 4 different publishers, but also have conducted research and even had my teaching featured in Learning Magazine at one time. There was a cover on Learning Magazine called Writing and Repelling, which features my teaching abilities. I think my best teaching lesson is repelling, and I'm able to do amazing things with kids on a rock face. I really
Wow.
that has been my number one thing. I haven't done it for a long time, but I did for probably 25 years, hundreds of days with kids in the mountains and outdoors. I'm a big believer in experiential education, experiential learning, learning by doing. I love vocational education. I love all kinds of education where there's some action going on, whether it's it could be in a writing class, it could be in a math class, it could be in any class, but there's got to be some action happening. There's got to be engagement. There's got to be excitement. The teacher has to be into it. And I know and that's the way kids get into it. They get into it and they meet a teacher who's excited about chemistry or physics or Spanish or whatever it is, art, and they take that enthusiasm and energy and they help a kid find themselves through that medium, whatever that happens to be. And I believe that a kid has to have a reason to come to school. It's got to be something that pulls them there. They don't like everything, obviously. No one likes everything, but you got to have at least one thing that you're passionate about that you're like, well, like I really want to go to school to see the coach. I really want to go to school to see Mary Jane in Spanish class. I really want to go to school today, you know, to see the cafeteria lady smile at me. Something that connects me to the school and makes me feel happy about being in school and proud to be in the school. I've thought for a long time about running for school board and being on a school board. I thought about doing it as part of the service requirements that I had as a professor at Clarion University, but I just didn't do it. When the opportunity presented itself for me to fill out the application and apply and be a school board member, I was very excited about it. My uncle Dick, Richard Goodman, Dr. Richard Goodman earned his doctorate at Harvard University. He was superintendent of schools in Wellesley, Massachusetts, went on to become assistant superintendent of schools for the state of New Hampshire. My Uncle Dick was one of my big examples and models. I love my Uncle Dick. Many people in my family were teachers or, worked in education, higher ed, whether it was at the university level, training nurses or at the university teaching engineering, or like my Uncle Dick being superintendent of schools. But he wrote a book about superintendent and school board collaboration called Getting There From Here. And he had a national reputation as a superintendent, and his work on helping school boards and superintendents forge alliances and work together in a positive way to achieve positive things for kids was really a model for me. I've tried to find a copy of his book on Amazon and it's not available. I called he's deceased. I called his son a couple weeks ago and asked him if he had a copy. He said he'd rummage through the house and see if he could find one. I know I had one, but I've moved so many times I can't find the thing. But what the essence of it is that school board members stay out of meddling with the micro issues that are going on in the schools. I would be an earpiece for anyone as a school board member. If someone wanted to call me and talk to me about any issue at the school, I would be an earpiece for them. But what I would recommend that they do is that they talk with the teacher, talk with the principal, talk with the assistant principal, talk with the counselor, talk with the person they have a beef with first, and exhaust that relationship before moving on and talking to someone else. But it's not the job of the school board member to get into who got cut on cheerleading at the junior high school, or who didn't get played at the baseball game on Monday night, or if a coach said a bad word in the locker room. That's the job of their athletic director or the principal or the person that supervises them, not me. I'm not their supervisor, and it clutters up the issues. What I do think the school board member needs to do is to work with the superintendent on the big issues, on what are the values of our school district, what are the priorities, what do we say being a Bearcat means, what does it mean to be a part of this community and a part of the school system? Does it have, is integrity important to us? Is learning important to us? Is innovation important to us? What are the values that we have? And this is what we need to have a discussion about as a board, decide what these values are, and then proceed with having the superintendent take that message forward. It could also work the other way around. The superintendent could provide the message, and the school board agrees, yes, we think this is really important for our town. This is going to move us forward. We like your vision and we support the vision, and onward we go with the big things. And then we make decisions about big things, like, are we going to build a new school, or are we going to start a foundation, or are we going to build a new library, or are we going to fund the schools with millions of dollars for new technology? Are we gonna bring in a speaker to talk about equity and make equity our theme for this year? How are we going to address issues of Black Lives Matter for our community as we move forward? What are our priorities as a school system and as a community? What do we want to be known for? What do we want to represent? That's what I would like to be a part of, that conversation. I have a lot of ideas about what I think makes good education. I've been around a lot of it. I've seen a lot of good education. I've seen a lot of bad education. I've worked in towns that where there was a contentious relationship with the community, where the community didn't want to support the teachers. And as I looked at that community as a young person, that's where I started working, Rochester, New Hampshire. Over half of the citizens in the town of Rochester, New Hampshire did not have a high school diploma. I'm like, there you go. Right away, you've got half the population that had a bad school experience.
Right.
Either they were thrown out or dropped out or kicked out or whatever out, but they didn't make it, and they didn't get an education, and subsequently they don't value it. They don't know what teachers do and what teachers can do. I know what teachers can do. Teachers saved my life. If I didn't have teachers and good teachers, I'd be in prison or dead right now. That's the difference it made in my life, because I was headed in the wrong direction, absolutely wrong. And I had teachers that saw me and knew me to be intelligent and a maverick, and they appreciated it, and they weren't afraid of me. I mean, I wasn't a violent kid. I wasn't the kind of kid that attacked or punched or, I was just checked out. I just was, sometimes funny, sometimes not, but I was not connected to what was going on in terms of the content. And then I met people that had something to say and said it to me, and I got the message, and that made all the difference. So I like working with that population. I think that they have special needs. That's really where my heart goes to those guys, because I know it's tough for them. But I also have great respect for the high achievers and the kids that really are going to make a difference in the world at the other side. So I'm excited about the possibility of being able to serve the community. I look forward to seeing how it all works out.
Great. Well, thank you. I mean, you covered a lot of topics I wanted to ask you about, but just to maybe drill down a little bit, because you do have a unique perspective. And so, being a mental health professional and working currently during at least San Luis Obispo High School, what are you seeing out there with the students and how this is affecting them? And what do you think this school district can do to help them once we through the rest of the year and once we're back to school? Do you have ideas of what we can do?
Well, I think social emotional learning is really an important part of the process. And a lot of the kids that I work with have mental health needs, and they stem from their families and environment. And not all mental health issues are environmental, but a lot of them are. I know that mental health issues are really extremely complex. But when students are isolated at home in dysfunctional families, It exacerbates their problems and it doesn't give them any outlet. I needed to go to school. I needed to see mentally healthy people. I needed to have interactions with sane adults. I needed to be in a place where alcohol wasn't in the middle of every single thing that was going on and causing fog, ubiquitous fog in the family. These kids are confused, they're alienated. It's not good for them to be home. And then the parents that are dysfunctional, of which there are too many, are also bereft of resources or don't know how to utilize the resources that are available to them.
Right.
So it really, it's a very bad time for a lot of families right now. People that had issues before COVID, now this puts an exponent on their issues, and I have I'd say half of the kids that are my charges are getting zero energy and education at this time. They're completely losing out. And I want to say too that I think that the biggest part of education that goes on in school is the social and emotional learning. Learning how to regulate your emotions, learning how to work with other people that are different, think differently, look differently, sound differently than you are, putting aside the differences and dealing with the task. A man that I studied and I have great regard for, James Comer, who's has a set of schools named after him called Comer Schools. There's one in Fresno, Mary Bethune School, which is in the southern part of Fresno, which is the African-American community. James Comer's African-American, he's a physician. He is in New Haven, his locus is in New Haven, Connecticut, but schools are all over the country styled for him. He believes in comprehensive education, and what James Comer says, this isn't a quote, but this is what he says, is that 75% of the jobs in America can be done with a fifth grade education, fifth grade math or reading level. Driving the UPS truck, driving any truck, which is the number one profession in the country. Being a carpenter, electrician, a plumber, even as a school psychologist, I'm not sure that I really needed to have a much higher levels. I mean, I certainly have to understand statistics and there's some of that, but in the day-to-day work that I do, it's addition and subtraction and writing simple sentences. It's just simple things that I do in an operation. But if you have a fifth grade or an 11-year-old emotional intelligence or level of dealing with things that are going on in the world, you are not going to make it on the road, in the office, in the workplace, anywhere in the society for more than a few weeks or months, because the going postal that we referred to, years ago, when people would just pull out a gun and start shooting people everywhere because someone said something or did something or acted in an untoward way toward them. That's the ruin of many people, and learning how to deal with your emotions and how to regulate your behavior. That's a key lesson that is learned in school. And that's what we do in the classroom when we want to have a climate for learning. It's pro-learning by not allowing put downs in the classroom, not allowing kids to be making jokes about students in the classroom or putting them down in any way, causing just any kind of contentious behavior. It ruins the climate and culture of the classroom, and it ruins a workplace. So I think that that's really a big benefit the kids get from being in school, and they don't get it at home,
Right.
because and that's what's really important. That social emotional learning is the most important thing that we do. We don't measure it, but it's there every day, and you know it, and you can see it in those kids.
So kind of rolling into that, the next question and something you had said earlier about extracurricular after school programs, that hook of getting kids to want to go to school. I mean, I know it was important for me in school. My kids, I mean, I have a fourth grader, and just not having the social interaction with his friends is, very frustrating for him.
Oh yeah.
But not to be able to participate in clubs and everything else that goes along with it. One of the things that I've seen as our district has kind of gone through these financial cycles is tends to be the first thing that gets cut when things get tough, and the last thing that kind of gets added when things get better.
Right.
And I certainly understand most of our budget is about employees. We have teachers, we have staff, support staff. They have to be compensated fairly. There's benefits, and so and then you throw of your overhead. Just your electricity bill and all that. There's not a whole lot of discretionary funds
Mhm.
when you get down to it. How can we as a district kind of move forward to kind of protect those programs, whether it's in the district as a community? Have you seen any programs? Do you have any ideas of ways to keep those going forward and to support them, and so they can be viable, and as parents we can count on them?
Mhm. Well, it's a big problem, certainly, but I do feel that experiential learning is the best learning, and that goes on the field, in club form, in activities that kids choose to engage in, and that want to be part of. And I think they're essential. Um, this is something that the board is going to have to wrestle with, and decide as a group about what the values are and what they're going to be, and what we're going to support. I certainly do support extracurricular activities. I support any time that teachers or adults can get together and be models for kids around interests that kids have, whether it's a robotics team or soccer, or club this or that, hiking club. That to me was the big thing that I got into, was the hiking club with this teacher I had, Peter Ordway. He would take kids off hiking, and I never had such a great time as when I reached the top of a mountain. I never felt so good. The endorphins and the nature and the achievement of working through all your issues to get to the top,
Mhm.
and then making it to the top. I never felt so good in my life. I they could have paid that whole guy's whole salary for doing what he did in that club. Uh, you know, the hell with the U.S. history and the Algebra 1. As far as what I needed at that time in my
Right.
life, that's what I needed. I needed to be taken up a mountain, and to see that I was someone of worth, and that I could do something. I knew I was smart. That wasn't what the issue was. It was the process of sitting on my keister for 6.5 hours a day. I couldn't do it. It just was killing me. And, I would do anything to escape it. So, I think clubs are really, really important. And I totally get the value of it. But if it comes down to teachers' salaries or clubs, I'm going to go for teacher salaries.
Yeah.
That's going to be where I'm going to sit. We have to find some other way to do the clubs. We're going to have to find some other way to do the other stuff. And I don't know where, how, but the community needs to get behind the schools. It takes a whole village to raise a child, and everybody needs to be on this. And I think, the realtors need to understand that all boats rise in a tide, and you bring this school system up, and you make this this is the hot spot for education. Then you're going to see people come and start rallying around. What are we going to do, and how are we going to put our name out there? And get the names out on the field, of all the people that are supporting this and who believe in this, and put your money where your mouth is about this stuff. Come on. You need to pony up. These businesses, people are making, J. Lohr, some of these companies are making millions and millions of dollars from the land, air, and water that they're sucking out of Paso Robles. And they need to put some more money back into this community where it really matters, which is the children. That's the future of the community. And also, having resources and work for them to do when they get out of school is important in keeping them here. But people really need to pony up more for education. It's worth it. Where I come from in New England, the middle class, upper middle class parents send their kids to private school. I was pulled out of public school and thrown into a private school setting. I repeated 10th grade in a private day school and finished up in a private boarding school in Milford, Connecticut. My father spent thousands and thousands of dollars having me get out of the public school, because the public schools were really in ruin. They had been abandoned, they had been neglected, and that's because all the money took and sent their kids to private schools. And they have the best private schools in the world in New England. Phillips Exeter Academy, Phillips Andover Academy, where Bush went to school, and Milton Academy and St. Paul's School. All these schools are like feeder schools for the Ivy League schools. And back in the 50s, it was automatic. You went to Milton Academy. You look into Milton Academy yearbook, and I have a lot of friends that went to Harvard and Princeton and Yale. I went to Georgetown from private school. Georgetown was one of the top 10 schools in the country. People that went to those schools, there was money there, and you open up the Milton yearbook, where'd the kids go in 1963? Harvard, Dartmouth, Yale, Princeton, right? You just go right down the list. And the parents spent their money sending the kids to boarding school, and it was screw the public schools. Just screw them. You don't give those guys anything. They just want, you're taking my tax dollar. Well, your tax dollar is for the community. It's for everything in the community. It's for the police and the fire and the roads and the schools and all the things that benefit the community. And schools benefit everybody. They benefit the whole community. I'm passionate about it. I really believe this.
Great. Well, I'm going to say thank you for stepping up and running. And it's a crowded field. I wish you luck, and I hope this helps kind of get your voice out a little bit.
Thanks,
and,
Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Is there anything else last word you want to throw out there that we didn't cover?
I just want to know more about you. Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, we'll have to do that offline, because I'm on my lunch break right now. And
okay.
I'm about done. So, but we'll have an off conversation. I'll tell you a little bit more about what.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about you. Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you're doing. Yeah, you're doing a great job.